Star Trek IV, Zoe Saldana has reportedly signed on to return. Uhura star shares her story hopes Star Trek IV gets a new update, with a report claiming that Zoe Saldana is now signed on to star in the project. After two successful Star Trek reboot films starring Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, Star Trek Beyond hit theaters in 2016. Despite positive reviews, the film was a soft performer at the box office, and a potential Star Trek IV has been stuck in development hell ever since, with conflicting updates emerging about the project over the past few years. A new report from Variety now sheds some light on Star Trek IV, claiming that Saldana is signed on to return as LT Nyota Uhura in the film. Saldana also shares some of what she hopes to see from Uhura in the upcoming sequel, which includes more of an exploration of her dynamic with Zachary Quinto's Spock. Star Trek IV has experienced a number of false starts over the last few years, but the fact that Saldana hasn't yet read a script means that things still seemingly haven't progressed a great deal with the sequel. It was reported earlier this year that Steve Yockey, creator of the flight attendant for Max, was writing the script, but it's not clear if this is still the case or if the project has pivoted again. Though the film was once slated to release in December 2023, that date came and went, and the movie has no new confirmed release date. At this point, factoring in completing the script and getting actor schedules lined up, the soonest Star Trek IV could be hitting theaters is probably 2027, but 2028 is more likely. As for who would be involved in the film, core Star Trek cast members like Pine, Quinto, Simon Pegg, Montgomery Scott, Carl Urban, Dr. Leonard McCoy, and John Cho, Iltikaru Sulu, would seemingly all be returning. Though most of these stars have expressed interest in returning for another film, they generally seem to be just as in the dark about the project as fans are. It's been more than 8 years since the release of Star Trek Beyond, and despite Paramount's efforts, it wouldn't be surprising if the film doesn't end up happening. At a certain point, continuing the story of a film that was only marginally successful at the box office becomes a questionable commercial venture. That being said, there is clear love for this particular iteration of characters like Kirk, Spock, and Uhura, and it would be exciting to see the gang get back together for one last adventure. While many questions remain about the upcoming film, it likely won't be made at the same budget level as Star Trek Beyond, which had an estimated price tag of $185 million. This will be particularly challenging to achieve not just because of the spectacle expected of the franchise, but because the salaries for all the very famous cast members will eat up a large chunk of the budget. Though Star Trek IV seemingly still has a ways to go, Saldana being signed on is a positive sign, and hopefully more updates will emerge about the film in the near future. Zoe Saldana has long been an integral part of the rebooted Star Trek film series, reprising the role of Nyota Uhura, a character originally portrayed by Nichelle Nichols in the 1960s television series. With the Star Trek franchise having undergone numerous transformations and expansions over the years, the character of Uhura has evolved significantly, thanks in large part to Saldana's portrayal. Recently, it has been reported that Saldaña is set to return for Star Trek IV, and the news has generated excitement among fans eager to see more of her interpretation of the iconic communications officer. With 3 successful films, Star Trek 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness 2013, and Star Trek Beyond 2016, Saldaña has not only made the role her own, but has also added depth to a character that was groundbreaking in its inception. Nichols' original portrayal of Uhura broke barriers as one of the first major black female characters on American television, offering a vision of a future where racial and gender equality were realities. As the torchbearer of this legacy, Saldaña has expressed her desire to see Uhura continue to grow in ways that reflect both the original ideals and contemporary conversations about identity and representation. Zoe Saldana's journey as Uhura. When Saldaña first stepped into the role of Uhura, she faced the challenge of taking on a character with immense cultural significance. In interviews over the years, she has shared how honored she felt to portray a character who is pivotal in the fight for on-screen diversity. Saldaña herself is no stranger to breaking barriers, being a woman of Afro-Latina heritage who has played strong, multi-dimensional female characters in several blockbuster franchises, including Avatar and Guardians of the Galaxy. In the rebooted Star Trek universe, director J.J. Abrams reimagined Uhura as not only a skilled linguist and communications officer, but also as a character with a more active role in the storyline. Her relationship with Spock, played by Zachary Quinto, became one of the focal points of the new films. Saldaña's portrayal emphasized Uhura's intellect, independence, and emotional strength, showing her to be a vital part of the Enterprise crew. Over the course of 3 films, her Uhura has been more than just a background figure. She has been central to many of the crew's most important missions. With Star Trek IV in development and Saldaña reportedly signed on to return, fans are eagerly speculating about what's next for Uhura. The new film is expected to bring back much of the original reboot cast, including Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, Zachary Quinto as Spock, and Carl Urban as Dr. McCoy. With this returning ensemble, there's an opportunity to further develop Uhura's character, and Saldaña has shared some thoughts on where she hopes her character's story will go. Zoe Saldaña's hopes for Uhura in Star Trek IV. In a recent interview, Saldaña expressed her excitement about reprising her role as Uhura, but also highlighted her desire to see her character continue to evolve. While she has enjoyed playing Uhura in the previous films, Saldaña hinted at wanting more depth and complexity in her character's journey moving forward. Specifically, she hopes to explore aspects of Uhura's background, her motivations, and her ambitions. "I'd love to see more of Uhura's backstory," Saldaña said. "Who is she outside of the Enterprise? What drives her? We've seen her professional side, but there's so much potential to explore who she is as a person." In addition to exploring Uhura's personal life, Saldaña also hopes that the character can take on even greater leadership responsibilities within the crew. Throughout the rebooted films, Uhura has often been the voice of reason and a strong decision-maker, but her role has still largely been in a supporting capacity. Saldaña envisions a future where Uhura steps into a more prominent leadership role, reflecting the growing conversations around gender equality and representation in leadership positions. "I think it would be amazing for Uhura to take on more command responsibilities," she said. "She's a brilliant linguist and communications expert, but she also has the intelligence and leadership skills to take charge in difficult situations. I'd love to see her given that kind of responsibility and trust from her peers." Legacy and representation. Saldaña's portrayal of Uhura continues to build upon the character's legacy as a symbol of progress and representation. In the original series, Nichelle Nichols famously became an inspiration for countless women and people of color. Nichols' Uhura was more than just a crew member, she was a statement about the future of humanity. One of the most famous stories of Nichols' impact comes from her encounter with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who encouraged her to remain on the show because of the importance of her role in changing the landscape of television. For Saldaña, carrying on this legacy is both a responsibility and an honor. She has spoken openly about how important representation is, especially in science fiction, a genre that imagines the future. In many ways, Star Trek has always been ahead of its time in terms of its social and cultural ideals, and Saldaña is committed to ensuring that Uhura continues to be a symbol of possibility for audiences. "I think science fiction is such a powerful genre because it allows us to imagine a world that's better than our own," Saldaña said. Uhura represents that vision of a better future, a future where people of all backgrounds are valued for their skills and contributions. "I'm proud to play a role in that." Looking ahead, as Star Trek IV moves closer to production, there's no doubt that fans are eager to see what's in store for the crew of the